Hi, this is Holly from ShinyShiny and this is the HTC One M9. Now you may remember we were very excited about this phone when we saw it at the launch at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona just earlier this year, and now that we've had a proper hands-on with it, we're happy to say that all our initial impressions are pretty much the case, and this is a very, very good phone. So if we take a look first at the handset, so HTC have continued the design language that they started with the M8. Actually, it's had a lot of criticism in the sense that some people say they can't really tell the difference. It doesn't look hugely different from the last iteration, but the main thing you're going to notice is that camera lens at the back there. So this is kind of a rounded square now, whereas it was circular before and a little bit smaller. That lens has a sapphire glass cover now, which means that it's going to be less scratchable and obviously lots more robust, so that's good to see. And another thing that you're going to notice on the handset is the new kind of dual tone design. So again, it's an aluminium unibody, meaning it's made from a single piece of metal. But why that's particularly impressive on this model is that there's a colour change on the side there. So you can see that this is the silver and gold model. So the back, as you can see, the back gets quite fingerprinty, turns gold on the side there. It's pretty seamless. I mean, considering that's one piece of metal, that's quite amazing. And it does look really lovely as well, especially in person. HTC call this jewellery grade, which I can understand. You know, it definitely looks like it's been precision manufactured. It's even down to the little details on the side there where the button is. There's some little etchings on the power button there, so you can tell it apart from the others. Although I have to say, I do find it quite difficult to locate the power button by touch alone, just because those two volume buttons are so similarly sized and similarly placed. So that's a bit of a frustration, but only a minor one. More of a frustration for me is the fact that the headphone jack is on the bottom. I really hate that because I think when you're putting the phone in your pocket, you don't really want the headphones to be coming out of the bottom. It's a bit awkward, means you probably have to put it in upside down. That's a little bit tricky and I'm not really a fan of that. But that's only a minor thing really. It's good to see that the boom sound speakers are back. So there's one, as you can see, above and below the screen. These are the best speakers in my opinion in the smartphone market right now. Incredibly loud, bassy, clear. The ones on the M8 were really, really good, but these are even better. Now they offer Dolby 5.1 virtual surround sound. So again, that's a good incremental update to see. And these are all really incremental updates to the M8. I mean, it's been very much criticised for being essentially the same phone, but I don't personally think it's just Malibu Stacy's got a new hat. You know, I actually think this is an excellent phone in itself. And I do think if you've released something that everybody loves, it doesn't make any sense really to go back to the drawing board and start again. It makes much more sense to improve the bits that people were less satisfied with and bring out something that's pretty much approaching perfection really. And I think that's what HTC have tried to do. Where it falls down for me, I think, is mainly the battery. This was also the case on the M8, where the battery was a little bit lower in capacity than some competing phones. This one it's had a bit of an upgrade to 2840 milliamps, but that's not great considering that a lot of the flagships that came out the latter part of last year had 3000. I mean, if you're looking at the LG G3, for example, or the OnePlus One, they were 3000 or over. So I was hoping to see 3000 on this one, and it sadly hasn't been the case. That's not to say it doesn't last well. It lasts well enough, you know, at moderate use, which is how I use my phone. It'll last you the day, but it will need a charge by kind of bedtime. It won't get you through 2 days of usage, which a lot of flagship phones these days are offering. Then again, the Galaxy S6 has just come out with 2600, which is even lower, and in fact is what the M8 had last year. So possibly it's fair enough that HTC have offered something slightly lower, especially because this one has the Snapdragon 810 octa-core 64-bit processor, which is the kind of processor that Android Lollipop is actually designed for. And it has very, very good power management. It's very good at kind of making sure that you're not using and consuming more power than you need to be, especially while the phone's active. So that will go some way to helping get more battery life out of the juice that it does have. And also HTC's inbuilt power management functions are, as always, very, very good. And again, that helps. But even that said, I would have preferred to see a little bit more capacity, and I would have preferred this to last a little bit longer. So I was slightly sad about that. But on the bright side, and on the very bright side, is the screen. So I've had to dim this considerably so that you're not getting blinded in this video, because it does go up very, very bright, kind of dazzlingly bright actually. This is a 5-inch Full HD 1080p screen, which actually is the same as we had on the M8. A lot of people were kind of saying we might get Quad HD for this one, as with the S6, as with the G3, but unfortunately that hasn't happened, so it stayed at 1080. However, this is a really excellent screen. I mean, HTC screens are always great. The picture is very, very close to the glass. The clarity is perfect. The colours are perfect. So honestly, I'm not too disappointed that that's not Quad HD. I'm not completely sure I would have been able to tell the difference anyway. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm also incredibly happy with the performance on this phone. It's been absolutely flawless. I mean, I've been using this as my main handset for about a week now, given that review samples haven't been out for too long because it hasn't long since been announced. But in the time I've been using it, you know, I've pushed it pretty hard. I've played games on it, I've multitasked on it a lot, I've used it day in, day out, and I have had zero problems, absolutely zero problems. I've had no lags, no stutters, no freezes, no problems at all. I mean, there's just nothing to complain about. It has 3 gig of RAM and it's got 32 gig of storage. This one takes a micro SD card as well, which is more than we can say for the S6. Interestingly, in the marketing material, HTC have mentioned that it takes up to 2 terabytes of micro SD card, which is interesting given that the highest one on the market at the moment is 200 gig and that's only just come out. So I'm not sure how they've been able to test that or whether they know something that we don't, but that was an interesting little thing that they slipped into the press release that kind of made us go, what does that mean? But if you're a fan of kind of expanding the storage on your phone, then that might be a plus point for you over the S6. Now, in terms of the camera on the M8 got a fair bit of criticism, mainly because it was rated at 4 megapixels, which sounded quite low, well, very low compared to other flagships at the time. That's because HTC developed a new kind of sensor called ultrapixel that they said crammed bigger but fewer pixels onto the same space of sensor, which essentially meant that you were getting more light in and you'd get a better picture. But given that they're going to be sold alongside phones with much higher megapixel ratings, that didn't look very good, and I think it was one of the reasons that the phone didn't sell as well as it could have, although obviously it did do very well. So this time I guess HTC have learnt from their mistake and they've switched the cameras round. So the original back camera that was on the M8 is now on the front, so we've got the ultra-pixel camera as the selfie camera here, and on the back is a new 20 megapixel kind of standard sensor. So I guess they've kind of given up on trying to push ultra-pixel too hard, which is a little bit of a shame because I actually really like the camera on the M8. But on this one again, the camera is very good. Low light performance on the selfie camera especially is very good. That was one of the things that was really praised in the M8. So obviously now that it's on the front, it's the same thing. It has a wide angle lens so you can fit more of your friends into selfies. And generally it just works really well. I mean, you can see some example photos in our text review, which I'll put the link to in the description. But there's not really much to say against the camera. It's not incredible, you know, it's kind of, from the quick go we've had on the S6, it's probably not going to be up to that standard, but it's very, very good. There's not really much I didn't like about it, and all the modes are in there, you know, there's lots of extra stuff that you can play with, so it's got all the eye experience stuff from the Desire Eye, and the M8's had an update to that as well, so you've got kind of the photo booth functions, and kind of say cheese to take a selfie, and all that kind of fun stuff, which makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And I think that's what HTC are very, very good at doing. They're just very good at making likeable phones. This is a very, very likeable phone. You know, you kind of pull it out and it feels yours, especially because you can add new themes to it now, which is quite fun. I'm going to show you that in a second. And it just feels very distinct from other phones on the market, other Android phones in particular. Partly just because of this design language and partly because of HTC Sense, which is one of the manufacturer overlays that people actually really like. Whereas most of them, you know, they kind of add stuff to Android that you go, oh, I don't really need that, that's a bit of a pain, why does it need to be different just for the sake of being different? But Sense genuinely does add stuff to the experience that you want and stuff that is useful. So one of the additions to HTC Sense 7, which is the version that this one has, is themes, which allows you to, as well as theming your phone in the usual way, allows you to theme the whole phone around a particular picture. So if there's a picture that you like, you can go into your gallery like this, you can choose it as your home image. It takes a little while to get going, and then it will theme the whole phone around that particular image. So if I go in and I'm going to choose this picture here of a Nintendo 64 controller, because I think it's got quite strong colours, it should work quite well. Then obviously it's going to have to crop it to fit my background, which is fine, so we'll do that like that, and then I'm happy with that, so we'll go along and it'll now create a custom theme around the colours in this picture. So as you can see, it's gone for dark blue icons there, the blink feed screen is all navy blue, and yeah, that looks pretty good. So this is something that you can do with any of the phones that you've taken. So for example, if you've taken a really nice black and white shot, or you've got something with interesting colours in it, then you can use it to really, really quickly set up your phone to go with that. And I think that's something that people quite like to do, you know, it's one of the things that makes the phone really feel like yours. So that was quite a nice addition to see. There's also a couple of additions to blink feed in general, so this will now suggest to you places to eat and things like that. I haven't found it overly useful. At the moment it's the evening and it's suggesting where I should go for lunch, so it's not been overly helpful to me so far. But to be fair to HTC, this phone hasn't actually launched yet, so it may be that service will improve as we go along. You might notice as well that the icons at the bottom there, the navigation icons, are slightly different to the stock Lollipop ones. I actually find these ones better. This is another way that Sense improves on stock Android, because the Lollipop ones are kind of a back arrow and a circle and a square. I don't think circle necessarily means home to many people in the same way that a little house does. So I actually do think those are quite useful, and they're customizable as well. So if you want to add an extra button in there, you know, to get straight to your notifications or anything like that, or if you want to switch them around because you're left-handed, you can do that, and that's a really nice addition as well. So lots of thoughtful touches on this phone, which I think will be much appreciated by the people that buy it. Which brings me to the question, should you buy it? Well, as you can probably tell, I am a big fan of this phone. I would buy it. I like it a lot. I loved the last one. I think this is a really excellent improvement on it. As I say, they haven't thrown the baby out with the bathwater and started all over again. They've started with a really excellent base and made it incrementally better, which is absolutely what I think they should have done. And the only reason I would say maybe don't get this phone is if you've already got the M8 and it's going to cost you lots of money to upgrade, because in that case you're probably not going to get enough of a yay new phone feeling from this one to justify it, because it's kind of not really different enough from what you've already got. But for everybody else, this is a really excellent phone with upgrades in all the right places. We would maybe have liked to have seen a slightly better battery and a slightly better camera, but having said that, it's a pretty good all-rounder. I think HTC have absolutely done it again, and this is what we were hoping to see from the M9 in pretty much every way. Its main competitor obviously is going to be the Galaxy S6. As for whether you go for that one or this one, it's going to come down to what means more to you. Obviously that one's got the Quad HD screen, but then this one's got a micro SD slot. That one has a curved edge version, which is cool, but this one has the dot view case, which is also very cool. So I would fully recommend having a go with both of them and just seeing how you get on. But I can assure you, if you go for the HTC One M9, you will absolutely not be disappointed. This is a stonking phone from HTC. Thank you very much for watching.